What's going on? Today we are talking Johnny Furphy, the 6'9", 202-pound freshman from Kansas, from Australia, I should say, and he's a very intriguing prospect. He started off slow. It took him some time to kind of get accustomed to Kansas and college basketball for that matter, but once he started to find his rhythm, he really seemed to find his place on that Kansas team. So Furphy, as I mentioned, 6'9", a little over 200 pounds. He's a wing. He might be a little bit taller than 6'9", and he'll be 19 and a half years old by the time the draft takes place. In his one season with Kansas, he averaged 9 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, and he did so while shooting 47% from the field, 35% from 3, and 76% from the free throw line. And he shot 64% on his 2-point field goals and had less than 1 turnover per game, 0.8 turnovers per game. As I mentioned, he had a slow start to his career or season, really, with Kansas, and he picked up as the year went on. And with that being said, all of his numbers pretty much across the board were better in conference play than they were in non-conference. Partially due to an increase in minutes, but I think more than that, just like an increased confidence and just self-assuredness that Furphy does belong. And he found his place in between some veterans on this team. He really ended up being the fifth and final piece for a Kansas team that could have gone really far if McCullough would have stayed healthy. And I thought Furphy played better when McCullough was playing than afterwards when he went down those last month or so of the season. So there was like a sweet spot the first month and a half or so of the conference play where Furphy really looked great, especially I thought in the first game against Houston at home, where it just seemed like he couldn't miss from 3, and he had a good feel for where he needed to be. He could score off of back cuts, especially off the baseline, and he just has an advanced maturity, I would say, to his game in understanding his role, where he needs to be, and not going outside of that, and just kind of staying within his role. He's a spot-up shooter. He cuts to the basket, and he competes on defense. And so I think Furphy's got a really good shot to have a long NBA career. Now, with that being said, let's go over some of his weaknesses. So 1 assist per game, I think that kind of says it in and of itself. He's not a playmaker yet. Some of that, though, is he played at Kansas, where he had one of the best passing point guards in the country, DeJuan Harris, 2 good passing big men in Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams, and Kevin McCullough, who's a good playmaker in his own right. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities for Furphy. But I just don't think that's going to be a big part of his game. It could be in the future. He certainly has a lot of development ahead. Defensively, I mentioned he does compete, but he's got to get stronger to really make an impact on that end. Just under a steal per game, 0.3 blocks per game. Not the worst, but it's not a strength of his. And speaking of strength, I'd really like him to get stronger, because it's going to help him not only defensively but offensively finish better through contact. And he's already a good finisher around the basket at 64% on his 2s. He's got a good feeling for when to time his cuts to the basket. So would I draft Furphy? I would in this year's draft. I think Furphy's a guy who, if it was maybe next year's draft or the year prior, maybe he would have stayed, and that could have done him some good to get another year of experience under his belt before heading to the NBA. But I think if you draft him, you have to have a plan in place that this is going to take a couple of years. Let him play some in the G League, get more experience, let him get stronger, and then in 2 to 3 years, I think he could be a really valuable rotation piece as a spot-up shooter, a guy who can attack the basket off of the dribble and then cut in behind the defense. So I think he's worth a pick. I think he's going to be taken between 20 and 30, because I just don't see a world where he enters the draft this season and he's not a first round pick. So I think he's certainly in that range. And I think, Teams like Washington could make sense just with the development timeline. And then Toronto, maybe. I know they have Grady Dick. I know they have RJ Barrett. So they have some wings. Even Scotty Barnes, technically a wing, although obviously Furphy's much more similar to a guy like Grady Dick, who also played at Kansas. So maybe, maybe not. But just because the Raptors have a couple picks late in the first round, maybe it makes sense to take a flyer on a guy like Furphy, who I think has a lot of potential, quite frankly. So let me know what you guys think about Furphy in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, as it helps grow the channel, and subscribe for more great NBA content. I'll see you guys next time.